Conditions for zakat to be obligatory. 09. For zakat to be obligatory upon a person, the following conditions must be met. 1. The person obligated to pay zakat must be a Muslim, free, of sound mind, and of legal age. Accordingly, non-Muslims, slaves and slave girls, the insane and children are not obligated to pay zakat. Non-Muslims are not obligated to pay zakat. In fact, may Allah protect us, if a Muslim departed from the true faith for a time and then repented and sought forgiveness from Allah, zakat would not be obligatory for him at the time of his apostasy, IRTIDAT, and any zakat obligations dating from before his apostasy would also be waived. For just as Islam is a condition for the obligation of zakat, it is also a condition for its continuation. As for slaves and slaves' wives, since they cannot own property by nature, they are not eligible to pay zakat, even if they are permitted to engage in commerce. The ruling remains the same. As for the insane, two scenarios may be considered. The first is being insane from birth. As long as this condition persists, they are not obligated to pay zakat. However, if they recover and regain their sanity after reaching puberty, they become obligated to pay zakat from the moment they regain their health. Second, it is to be in a state of insanity for a period of time after reaching puberty. In this case, if their insanity, madness, continues for an entire year, it is not obligatory for them to pay zakat for that year. This is because their obligation is lifted in such a case. However, if they recover for a short period, such as 1 or 2 days during that year, paying zakat becomes obligatory for them. This is the view of Imam Muhammad. According to Imam Abu Yusuf, unless one is in good health for most of the year, zakat is not required for that year. A state of unconsciousness, however, does not preclude the obligation to pay zakat. As for children, they are not obligated to pay zakat until they reach puberty and are of sound mind. Therefore, their guardians cannot pay zakat on their behalf from their property. Their obligation to pay zakat begins upon reaching puberty. It must be fulfilled. The end of 1 year. According to Imam Shafi, zakat must be paid from the property of children and the mentally incompetent. Their guardians pay this from their own property. This is because zakat is a right attached to property. Childhood and disability do not negate the existence of this right. The same applies in cases of excusable circumstances. In our view, zakat is a financial act of worship. They, however, are not obligated to perform worship. 2. A person obligated to pay zakat must possess an amount of wealth equal to or greater than the nisab, exceeding their basic needs and debts. Zakat is not obligatory for those who do not possess this amount of wealth. Nisab refers to a specific measure or amount established by Sharia for a particular item. For example, the nisab for gold is 20 miskals. The nisab for silver is 200 dirhams. The nisab for sheep and goats is 40 sheep or goats. The nisab for cattle and buffalo is 30, and for camels, it is 35. Basic necessities. This refers to a place to live and the household, items necessary for the home, winter and summer clothing, necessary weapons and tools, books, amount, a servant, a slave, or a concubine. According to one view, this refers to 1 month's worth of maintenance, while, according to another, it refers to 1 year's worth of maintenance. The same applies to money held as settlement for a debt. 3. Property subject to zakat must be increasing, either in fact or by law. Zakat is not required on property that does not meet these criteria. Exceeding the nisab amount does not change this ruling. Actual increasing capacity occurs through trade or through birth and reproduction, just as any item or animal used for trade is subject to zakat. So too are animals that spend most of the year grazing in the pastures to produce offspring or milk and are known as same, are also subject to zakat. This will be explained later. In terms of the ruling, increase refers to the validity of gold and silver that are capable of multiplication and increase. and are in the possession of the owner or his agent. Materials of gold and silver cannot be used to meet basic needs. They meet needs by being used in commerce and as a medium of exchange for goods. In this regard, they are, by their very nature, intended for increase in commerce. Therefore, gold and silver coins, bars, and ornamental items in one's possession, even if they are not intended for trade or saved to be spent on living expenses or the purchase of a home, they are subject to zakat once they reach the nisab threshold. 4. For zakat to be due, full ownership must exist. In addition to ownership of an asset, it must also be in one's possession. Therefore, a woman is not obligated to pay zakat on her dowry until she takes possession of it, because even though he owns that mare, bridal gift, he has not yet taken possession of it. Likewise, a person who has pledged property as collateral is not required to pay zakat on it. This is because the pledge is in exchange for a debt. In this case, owner has nitrogen monoxide right to take possession of it. Property that has been purchased but not yet taken into possession is considered to be in possession and is subject to zakat. It meets the zakat threshold, and zakat must be paid on it. A person who is traveling is also obligated to pay zakat on their property, even though they do not physically possess their property. They have the means to use it through a trustee. 5. For zakat to be due, a full year must have passed since the property was acquired. This is called havli havlin. This is because during this period, increase and multiplication occur and propagation and reproduction take place. As the seasons change, needs and prices fluctuate. In other words, zakat is not required on an asset capable of increasing provided it meets the minimum threshold. And I say B, until a full lunar year has elapsed. The nisab amount must be present both at the beginning and at the end of the year. A decrease in this amount midway through the year does not prevent the payment of zakat. Conversely, property that increases during the year is also subject to zakat at the end of the year, together with other property. Example, if a person possesses 200 dirhams of silver, an asset exceeding their basic needs, at the beginning of the year, 1364, and this asset remains in their possession until the end of the year, they must pay 5 dirhams in zakat on it. If this property decreases to 100 dirhams in the middle of the year but returns to 200 dirhams by the end of the year, 5 dirhams of zakat are still required. If the amount was at least 200 dirhams at the beginning of the year, but increased to 400 dirhams during the year due to reasons such as trade, donations, and inheritance, and remain at that level until the end of the year, zakat of 10 dirhams is required. However, if such property, which was 190 dirhams at the beginning of the year, increases to 200 or 300 dirhams by the end of the year, or if it was 2 minus 300 dirhams at the beginning of the year but had decreased to 199 dirhams by the end of the year, no zakat is required. However, if it reaches the same amount or more at the end of a year, that begins on the day it reaches 200 dirhams, zakat is required. According to Imam Zufar, the nisab amount must be present from the beginning to the end of the year. According to Imam Shafi, the same rule applies to livestock known as same. However, for commercial goods, the nisab must be fully present at the end of the year. If the nisab is insufficient at the beginning or midway through the year, this does not prevent the payment of zakat. 10. If a year has passed since a property subject to zakat was acquired and that property subsequently increases in value, it becomes subject to zakat at the end of the year based on its original value.